Well, hello and welcome back to our YouTube channel, Fulfill the Game of Life. Well, once again, we decided, why sit in a room and record these videos? Let's get out. Today, we're in the city of
Celorico,
which is about 20 minutes away from Linares and also has its own castle as we're sitting out right now, listening to this guy bang on stuff. So
there's a lot of construction.
A lot of things going on.
Right. So we have noticed that our most viewed videos are when we point out the differences that we see between the US and Portugal.
So why not do it again? If people are interested in it, we can keep telling you the differences that we are experiencing here in Portugal versus when we lived back in the United States.
In this video, we're going to give you 10 more differences.
So let's get going. We're going to start with the differences in your home, in the house. First of all, we've only been in 2 Airbnbs, so these are pretty general observations. It may prove wrong in the future for us, but to start with, there are no clothes dryers. Clotheslines are still heavily used in both the countryside and in Lisbon.
Number 2. Both stays have had very firm beds.
Really firm beds.
Very firm beds. So back at home in the US, we had a foam mattress.
The first stay on those mattresses were actually pretty shocking to us. They were really hard.
I wasn't quite sure how we were going to sleep in such a hard bed. But after a few nights, it seemed like I was getting a little bit more of a restful sleep. So that was a benefit in being able to sleep on a much firmer bed than what we were used to. Yeah,
it really surprised us. There was one bed in the first Airbnb, and there are actually 4 beds in this Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
All 5 mattresses have been really firm compared to what we're used to. But I think, oddly enough, we've both actually come out with benefits of a little bit less back pain and a little bit smoother days.
Right.
All right, on to number 3. I find pretty interesting from an engineering perspective that the homes are well engineered to utilize the draft through the windows to regulate the temperature on the inside of the house. Now, this was in both cases in Lisbon. The front door to the back windows, air just flowed through almost all the time, as long as there was air flowing in the city. And here in Linares, the upstairs window will literally feed all the way through both the other 2 floors and allow you to regulate the temperature to either increase the cooling or decrease the cooling based on the airflow, which is pretty darn cool. Haven't really seen that in the United States. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. We just didn't utilize it in Georgia. It also wasn't very windy.
Right. And that leads to number 4. When you use house drafts for temperature regulation, having screens on the windows would be nice.
Yeah, we don't see screens on hardly any windows. Now, admittedly, there were a few here in Linares.
Mm-hmm. No.
I don't know if we saw any screens on the windows in Lisbon.
No. To our knowledge, we haven't seen any mosquitoes, but there are plenty of common houseflies.
You probably just saw that one dart in front of my face. Well, I'm not sure if you could see our face with the sun behind us, but we thought this was a great second spot to continue recording here. So, number 5, the home raw materials. The raw materials that they build houses here are different than the raw material in which they build houses in the United States. In general, at least the older houses here, the countryside houses, they're built using locally sourced raw material, which is basically these massive granite stones that you see all throughout the landscape.
And where we are staying, the walls are as thick as 4 feet. And we saw a home in Celorico that the wall is easily 5 feet thick, maybe even 6 feet.
The very thick stone serves as a natural weather barrier, not only just from the rain and the wind. It keeps the extreme temperatures on the outside and helps maintain the temperature inside the homes.
And the stone thickness is an indicator of wealth, is what we were told.
Yes, so the really thick stone houses regulate the temperatures better and were owned by the wealthy. As a matter of fact, the Airbnb that we're staying in has no air conditioning. And we've been there long enough to go through temperature variations from the 50s at night all the way through the high 90s on one day and in the 90s pretty consistently.
And we've really only needed a fan for one night.
Yeah, so these really thick stones in the house we're in is, like we said, is about 4 feet, and it regulates the temperature exceptionally well considering the outside temperatures with no air conditioning, which is pretty darn cool. Saves a lot of money that way. So as we continue though on the thought of building by the raw material, the one thing that was really cool to us, you'll see it in a few videos when we went on a road trip up into the really high altitude, and the type of stone on the landscape changed.
So instead of the granite rocks, it turned into the long, thin slate material.
And the construction of the homes were changed to follow along with that raw material. The slate homes look completely different than the large granite homes. The small, thin slate was built up in layers, and the material is a lot darker. They also took the slate actually and made the roofing material. So really for the first time, we didn't see the orange ceramic roofs.
So the roofs were made of the really long, thin slate, and it looked like they were made of dragon scales. It was so cool to look at.
It was cool. It was completely different, but you could tell basically that the people adapted to use what was readily available in building their homes, and we were fascinated by it.
And on to number 6. All of the house restrooms and public female restrooms all had bidets.
Yeah, let me tell you, that was a refreshing experience. That was a refreshing discovery for us Americans.
And on to number 7, grocery stores. There were 3 primary differences. The carts often had 4 swiveling wheels, which improved maneuverability in the smaller stores.
Yeah, and in some cases, and we probably should say the majority of the cases, they charged €1 for you to check out the larger carts, but the smaller carts were free.
Which was nice. Made you buy less. And finally, they charge for the bags that you use, and you quickly learn that you need to take your own bag there. After about 4 times of having to buy a bag, I definitely learned I needed to pack them with me when we went to the store.
Yep, so we learned that lesson pretty quick, and let's face it, that's good for the environment. That is something we should be doing all over the planet.
And on to number 8, the differences in the restaurants. First, we didn't notice until after the trip to McDonald's that they serve beer in McDonald's and Burger King.
Yeah, we had a few people post on comments, hey, they serve beer. And we happened to notice it on a trip to the mall at the Burger King sign. We're like,
hey, they serve beer.
Is that beer up there on the regular menu? And lo and behold, the fast food restaurants serve beer. Additionally, in the restaurants, we sometimes actually have to ask for ice. They typically don't bring us ice without asking. Sometimes they'll ask, would you like ice? But if no one mentions it, your drink's coming without ice.
Right. And though generally, with a lot of exceptions, when people say traditional Portuguese meat, to reference that it consists of meat, rice, and potatoes. Or French fries.
Yes. Now look, I got to give Portugal props on their potatoes, their fried potatoes. They remind me so much of making French fries homemade at home. 2 things that are completely different. They are yellow potatoes instead of kind of the white potatoes in America. And number 2, we've been here for almost 8 weeks, and only one time did the French fries come to the table and not be just fresh out of the oil. They're cooked extremely fresh and delivered with the meal within minutes, and they are just fantastic when it comes to French fries. I freaking love them.
Super with a lot of salt.
Whole lot of salt.
And on to number 9, salt and sugar. As many of our viewers have told us, the amount of salt and sugar in food is regulated and taxed.
Yeah, how interesting is that the government would actually regulate salt and sugar out of the diet. Now look, I was raised in America. I can hear you guys, every one of you in America, I can hear you right now taking this huge gasp all the way over the Atlantic Ocean, and you're saying things such as, "That's infringing on my rights. How dare they take salt out of what they're serving me?"
But after some thought, we have come to these conclusions.
Yeah, two things. We actually like what it says that the government cares about their people and wants to maintain health in general across the country. So that's number one. But number two is this. It's a bit of reverse logic to say that restricting salt and sugar from the diet would be infringing on your rights. It's actually the other way around. Once you've put significant amount of salt in a recipe and served it to the mass public, the person can't take the salt back out. However, in Portugal,
well, nothing stops anybody from adding more salt and sugar.
Right, so here it's just the opposite thought process. We'll cook it without all the salt, and if a person wants the salt, such as Christy,
then have at it.
She pours salt on it, and I don't. So as a general rule, we do believe it would be better for society to regulate out salt and sugar, which, by the way, we've been told on comments as well, is one of the reasons the Coke is not as sweet here, is that the sugar has been regulated out of the Coca-Cola. So how's that for interesting? And cultural shifts based on what we believe is normal in the United States. Okay. Obviously, it's really windy up here, so we're hoping that these microphones cancel out enough that you can actually hear us. But we hope the view is well worth it. So we both want to say this.
Bravo to Portugal
for helping keep their citizens healthy.
And on to number 10. It looks like a few gas stations also are bars and cafe. Bars, a cafe, and a gas station all in one.
All mixed together. So there you have it. Before the wind blows us off the castle, those are 10 more differences from the United States compared to Portugal.
And again, thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us. Thank you so much for tuning in. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a like.
We hope you're enjoying the content. And until next time,
ciao.